Okay, let's go. Huh? What are we going to talk about today? How's everybody doing? All right. So Kyle will be doing the back half of this stream. I'm here for the beginning, and then I have to get on the road. I'm going with Donna to a doctor's appointment that she has, and so it's going to take almost 2 hours to get there. So I need to get on the road, but I did not want to miss this. Coot, how we doing? Getting amped up for the series? Yep, they're going to run with the revenge, and that's fine. That's fine. David, how you doing, bud? No bulletin boards needed. Cats go out and play the way we're capable. Yes. Jake says, isn't that bitching about state income tax now? Jeez, come on. Come on. Oh. Real says, I'm stressed. If we lose, everyone clowns us forever. On the other hand, we win and we'll be able to open 100 salt mines. Real says, DeBoer threw Otter under the bus in the post game. I did not see that part. Wow. What did he say? Jake says, if we lose, we lose. We still won a cup and still be contenders for a few more years, hopefully. I mean, I understand what you're saying. Like somebody was asking me yesterday, am I worried? Am I worried about Edmonton? And I'm like, we're the champs. It's like, I don't think you could ever worry about, oh my God, we didn't win two, back to back. Of course I want to win, but I don't suppose there would be much ranting during this series. You know what I mean? Pente, how you doing? Colby says, so I assume we have Bob winning the Conn Smythe. I think that's what we're going to need. If the Panthers win, I would suspect it'll be Bob. Rosado. Ghost there, ready to steal game one in Edmonton. We need to get off to a good start in this series for sure. Pente says, like I said, Dallas would get spanked. And it's last year's finals rematch. Yep. Yes, sir. There you go, Rosado. Jack the Leafs kids. The Oilers fans are on your ass, Matt, already saying they had the deepest team and this is their year. I mean, how deep is their team? I don't know. I mean, I like having Brad Marchand on my third line. I feel pretty good. Feel pretty good about that, right? Like if Boquist and Sam Miskevich aren't playing, we got 27 goals scratched. I feel pretty good. Coot says, I'm a little puzzled by the NHL's decision to put a two-day break in between games 3 and 4, but not 4 and 5 when there's actual travel in the Stanley Cup matchup with the farthest distance between the teams. So they put the break in between 4 and 5, but not between 3 and 4? That's weird because I looked last year, and each time there was travel, they did put the extra day in. No, they put it in between 3 and 4, right? 1, 2, 3. Oh, between 3 and 4. That doesn't make it. What about between 2 and 3? That's where the 2-day break should have been. I haven't looked at the schedule. I just know it was Wednesday. Yeah, Hungry. I agree there. Goat Slayer says, heard the presale for Upper Bowl and Sunrise is $1,000 a seat. Yeah. Fly, he said they had a big enough sample size with Otter. Holy hell. Wow. That's wild. David says, just an FYI to anyone who thinks, gee, no state tax, I'll move to Florida. The cost of living here more than makes up for no state tax. It does. Cade, Bill Zito. Amen there, bud. They have a big enough sample size with Otter, as if we don't have an even bigger sample size with DeBoer himself. Yes, that's crazy. So Thomas wants to know if the Oilers are going to miss Cy Hyman in the lineup. I mean, you're always going to miss a guy. It's really going to be interesting to see if that changes some of the matchups in terms of what like Florida might throw out there against McDavid's line. Pente says, if the Cats win again, MVP will be Bob or Sasha. Yeah. Everybody's saying the Oilers are unstoppable. I mean, I get it. They probably have most of Canada behind them at this point, right? It's going to be two top. I mean, it is far and away. There's no accidents in this Stanley Cup final. You know what I mean? It's the two top teams in the conference for sure. Yep, Craig. Colby says I have the Oilers taking a 2-1 series lead and Panthers winning in 6. I'll take that. I'll take that. Only DS says, I mean, the same Oilers fans were saying Oilers in 7 and clowning us early only to lose by 1 goal in Florida. The Reinhart goal is still chilling. Yep, that's a thing of beauty, man. So the schedule for let me look. I didn't look because I've been rushing. Let's see. Let's see what is the schedule. So Wednesday, Friday, and then they put the 2-day break, and then they put another 2-day break in between games 3 and 4. And then they've got no 2-day break for game 5. So that's weird. Game 6, you have the 2-day break as expected. And then 7. So we get the break after when we have to travel back to Florida, but they're going to give that extra day in there while we're at home. That's odd. And then no extra break. I mean, I actually don't mind that a little bit. I wonder if it's because they wanted to make sure that there was a weekend game, like a Saturday game. I wonder if it has something to do with the TV contract saying there's going to be a Saturday night game or something like that. Colby says, don't be shocked if Oilers game 1 is a repeat of Panthers Leafs. Jack says, DeBoer, I didn't blame it all on Jake, but the reality is if you go back to last year's playoffs, he's lost 6 of 7 games to Edmonton. Woo! Damn. How about the team has lost 6 of 7 games to Edmonton? How about not letting Corey Perry stand all alone in front of the net on the power play? Damn. Hungry says, it was looking like Wah in Montreal last night. Wouldn't be surprised if he requests a trade. Yeah, that's wild. So Silva says, what if we re-sign Ekblad 8-year, $4 million, but front load the contract so he can retire if he wants? Bennett 8 years for 5, or $8 million for 5. Let's keep Marshy, get Sam over bridge, and keep the cap space. You can't front load the contract, Silva, unfortunately, in terms of cap. If it's if it averages out to be 8x4, it's 4 per. Doesn't matter if we pay them 10, and then 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. It's still going to be the cap hit will be 4 per. Colby says Oilers definitely don't have the support of Nucks fans. Hey, Dietrich. Wow, Jack says the Oilers are the first Canadian team to have home ice advantage in the Cup Finals since the 2011 Vancouver Canucks. Was that Luongo's team? That was Luongo, wasn't it? Kenneth, yes. We've never had a state tax. George, I like that. Dietrich, no fishing today. We're gonna have plenty of fishing next week because the weather is going to be nice and warm. Finally, that's right. So Marchand eliminated the last Canadian team to have home ice advantage in the finals. Real says, I think if we win, I think it's in 7, and if we lose, I think it will be quicker. I mean, I picked Panthers in 6, but only because it went 7 last time, and so I don't want to go with the assumption that we're going to do the same exact thing again. I know we're not going to get up to a 3-0 series lead. Ted said, what a brilliant pass by Barkov. No doubt, man. No doubt. Jack the Leafs kid says Vegas and Dallas are just pathetic. They keep showing they're willing to roll over and die in the playoffs. Yeah, I mean, we streamed all of the games, and just like Dallas, just like flatlined the whole time. The whole time. Like very rarely did they exhibit any energy and tenacity that would make me think they're in the playoffs. IDK though, man, do you ever feel confident? Like, what would it take for IDK to feel confident? Hey, JC. Otter to Florida for a bag of chips, right? Where would he want to go? Don't let Montreal get a hold of him. That could be a problem. Hey, Adonis. David says, Paul Marie says he's too good to go. That's good. JC thinks Bennett would have resigned by now. But that's what they said about Reinhart last year, JC. Remember last year, they were saying Reinhart was going to get $12 million. And they was like, oh, well, he's going to, if you watch the Bill Zito press conference, one of the reporters says to him, for all we know, you already have contracts with ink on them. You just haven't made it public yet. And when the reporter said that, Zito gave about, it was the tiniest, little, teeniest, almost smirk. He almost smirked when somebody said that to him. And then he came up with some bland kind of answer. And the way he answered those questions makes me think that they already know that they got Bennett and Ekblad taken care of. That's my hope. That's my hope and my cope. I see what you're saying, Silva. He can retire without losing so much money. Well, are the contracts not guaranteed? I guess they could put a retirement clause in there, because remember Luongo's contract had some kind of retirement clause in it. JC says, think about it. Re-sign and keep beating your body up with the style we play, or go get a massive bag and cruise. I don't know, man. Yeah, let's hope so. Marchand is going to make a difference. Yeah. Yeah, the Kings would have wrecked that. The Blues would have wrecked Dallas, right? Hi, DK. Right? Imagine pissing away a miracle like getting Rantanen at the last minute. I mean, he disappeared, though, too, right? I mean, he single-handedly beat Colorado. Adonis says, with how Lundell has been carrying himself this season specifically, I would not mind at all rolling with him at the second line center and let Bennett leave. It's an interesting proposition. I mean, certainly Lundell is Bennett insurance. And then you would have to think if we might just consider, like I've said, going Bennett or going Barkov, Lundell, Luosterainen. Maybe that, maybe Zito's got that in mind. Don't know. George, I think Rantanen already signed in Dallas. I think so. I think I remember that, right? Dietrich. Silva says Dallas needs to fire DeBoer. They have the best team in the league on paper, period. They got the Stanley Cup final the year before DeBoer signed. This is a coaching issue. I don't disagree. I do not disagree one bit. Pente says Nils should fire DeBoer after what he said and after the whole Otter thing. I was stunned. Like, you take him out. I get what you're trying to do in that moment, but I would have bet all my money that Otto would have been back out there for the second period. So good thing I don't have any money, because I would have lost it all. I would have thought for sure. It's like, all right, well, I made my point. Now get back out there and win us a game, Jake. But then to say we got enough of a sample size, how about it's your team? If one goalie loses to one team 6 out of 7 times, it's not the goalie. Otter didn't just suddenly suck 6 of those games. It's your team, you dumbass. God, that's awful. George says DeBoer was in San Jose, and same thing happened every year like Dallas, right? David says you can't try to skate with the Oilers. Got to beat on them and wear them down as they're super talented. Yeah. Hey, Vanish, how you doing, bud? Yeah, you're happy, right? It will be a war. Yes. It will be a war. Silva, yeah, I think Luongo had some kind of retirement clause where, like, if he retired one year early, we were going to get screwed. It was a really odd contract. What time does that say? All right, I'll be back in 2 minutes. I got to make sure Kyle's ready because he's got to run the second half of the stream. I'll be back in just a minute. All right. Okay. I told him to be ready. I can't even find him. I don't even know where he is at this point. I scrolled down to the bottom. The chair makes a really good point. Yeah. Yeah, James said, yeah, my contract sucks for Roberto Luongo. I remember that exact quote. All right, Kyle, you just about ready? All right, come on in when you're ready. Real says, I think I saw a stat that Otter faced more shots than any other goalie in the playoffs. Maybe fix the defense in front of him, right? Right? Oh, that's a shame, man. David says, so funny, people attacking Otter. The Oilers skated circles around the Stars. Yeah. RC says, this series depends on Barkov being McDavid's shadow and the health of Reinhart for our power kill team. Yep, I got you. Communist, I'm not sure about DeBoer not making adjustments. I'm not sure on the specifics of that. It's just his teams are famous for what Dallas has been doing. Hey, Vernon. Hungry. Do I think we'll go back to the 1-8 playoff formula? I don't know. I mean, I don't think in the East anybody was beating Florida, and I don't think anybody was beating Edmonton in the West. You know what I mean? I mean, I kind of feel like we've gotten the two best teams clearly the last 2 years. I mean, Florida played, in my opinion, Tampa and Toronto especially were the two best teams in the East. Washington wasn't quite as good. They weren't quite there. Montreal's not ready. The Devils weren't. So I don't know what the changing of the format would do other than just change the order of, like, I'm thinking in the East, like what would have been different, like who could have beat another, you know what I mean? Like maybe if Tampa would have played Toronto, that would have been nice for the Panthers because we wouldn't have had to play both of them, Hey, Amanda. All right, Kyle, you ready?
Yeah.
Thank you, Amanda. All right. So, all right, everybody. Kyle's here. Kyle's here. He's going to run the rest of the stream. Stay as long as you want. I would usually stay until almost 10, quarter after. I gotta run because I gotta help Donna get to it. She's got an appointment, doctor's appointment that I need to be there for. Okay, you're good? Questions? Answers? I have none.
Well, if you guys are leaving before
I'll text you. Have your phone, I'll text you.
My phone is charging right now, so once it's at least 50%, I'll have it on me.
Okay. All right. All right, everybody. I'll see you all tomorrow at noon. But for now, you got Kyle. Yeah. We'll see you.
If you leave before I'm done with the stream,
I will. We're leaving in like 10 minutes.
If Leia starts scratching,
I'll just leave the door open. She can come in here.
Or keep it closed, but I'll open it if she wants to come in.
Well, she's not going to know you're in. So
just leave it cracked.
Yeah, just leave it cracked. So you're all in there.
All right. Hey, what's up, everyone? Give me a second. What's up? Okay, so where did Jaws leave off? He says if Vancouver patches the holes Demko and Besser leaves behind, they instantly go back up to top pick of the West. What those guys did to Dallas is insane at the end of the season. I think Vancouver might be too much of a drama-filled team. They're basically take your pick. It's either the Canucks or the Rangers that are the equivalent of the Eagles from a couple years ago. Highly talented team, but the team drama just cost them in the end. Hello. Hey, Amanda. Thank you for the 5, Amanda. Thank you. Thank you, Amanda. She says, "Hey, Kyle, what is your prediction?" This is my this is the 30th anniversary logo. I wish they had made a jersey of it. Kenneth says Jaws started a frenzy in here, then threw you to the Sharks. Yeah, the Eagles are a monster. Yeah, like Nick Sirianni went from everyone and their mother calling for his head to Super Bowl champion. So we have a Stanley Cup Finals rematch for the first time since 2009. I believe, if I'm correct, the Red Wings beats the Penguins in 2008, and then the Penguins got their revenge in 2009. So what makes this rematch so compelling is the fact that one of the most absurd scenarios already happened. We already saw the Panthers take a 3-0 series lead and then get forced to Game 7, where they ultimately ended up winning. So I have no idea how to predict this series. Obviously, both teams are coming in with some kind of injury or another. Panthers are going to need to take advantage of the rest to allow guys like Reinhart, Mikkola, Greer, and now Luosterainen to all rest up. Matthias Ekholm, Jeff Skinner are back for the Oilers, but they lost Zach Hyman. So we can talk about the I'm Jack the Leafs kid. I saw that quote from DeBoer throwing Otter under the bus. Like, how can DeBoer be so irresponsible as to throw his star goaltender under the bus like that? Hello, Matthew Owen. Either DeBoer is getting fired or Ottinger might be wanting out of there. Yeah, it's the first Canadian team with home ice advantage since 2011 when Marchand's Bruins won, and they beat Luongo's Canucks. So believe that the Stanley Cup final rematch between the Panthers and Oilers is a toss-up. ESPN bet on Thursday opens the Panthers and Oilers each at -110 after the matchup was set. The price was on the move Thursday night, with Edmonton emerging as the favorite in some books, but the odds remained close. Collins says Matt Murphys and Ronnie Simon have been DFA'd by the Marlins. Damn. Ronnie Simon that's the rookie who made all those costly errors in that game against the Padres. Damn. Dietrich says it's interesting, the new dynamic of Jones and Schmidt versus McDavid and Draisaitl. Hopefully them and Forsling deal with that speed. Well, the good news is that every one of our new players has a full buy-in to the Panther system. A system that's succeeded in winning them the cup against the same team last year. Jack the Leafs kid says Oilers fans believe they have a much deeper team and better goaltending. Well, team depth, I think might have improved for the Oilers. Wallman, their trades deadline acquisition from the Sharks appears to be a beast. Bob and Skinner tied with 3 shutouts in these playoffs. I would argue that Stuart Skinner's performance is more a reflection about how bad the Stars are in the conference finals over the past few years. And then, of course, there's also was the series against the Golden Knights, where I still have no explanation for how the hell the Golden Knights did not win once at home. And also, didn't they get shut out twice by Skinner? How do you manage that? Yeah, Marchand should score quite a lot in the finals. I agree with David. Coots says, so you're telling me the last time a Canadian had home ice in the finals, they went against Brad Marchand's team and lost on home ice with Marchand scoring 2 goals in the series clincher to win? Green Loogie says Skinner's team taking the shot blocks is the reason behind Skinner's shutouts. Man's a disaster. Amanda says, I highly disagree. They have a deeper team. Our third line, Marchand, Lundell, and Luosterainen are all like plus 11. What's the Oilers' third line? Well, here's the phenom. When you have superstar talents like McDavid and Draisaitl, you only need to have decent players backing them up to have a cup contending team. Craig says, if you haven't watched the Panthers mic'd up Game 5 versus Canes, it is worth it. So, in the spirit of urinating tree, I would like to spend a few minutes, maybe if I were able to go to the YouTube page for this stream, I might create a poll to nominate the locale of the playoffs. So, this would be specifically for who was the biggest lolcow in these year's playoffs, not including anything that happens in the Cup Finals. Mythical Riz thinks Barkov will lock down McDavid like the last series. Also, with no Hyman, that's going to hurt long as we get back on defense and play smart, we got this. Yes, it has really been not since 2011 since a Canadian team has had home ice in the Cup final. Rod, I watched the video about the Rods Brindamore and Maurice thing. Apparently, Paul Maurice has gotten a new philosophy, a new idea. He believes that coaches should not be in the same handshake line. Coaches and trainers should not be in the same handshake line as the players. And I think Paul is right on that count. Now, whether it's a good idea to wait until a series is over to try and explain that to Rods, the Bods, I'll leave that up to you. Madonna's Jaws had to leave early. He is helping Donna go to a doctor's appointment, and it's a long drive, so he had to turn over the stream to me after about the first 20 minutes. Bex, that is what the Canes coach was either confused or angry about. It's hard to tell which emotion it was. He was either confused or angry. Let's see. Give me a second. Would you guys like me to make a poll that nominates locale of the playoffs? Let's see. I'm going to create a poll here. Who is the locale of this year playoffs? Not including whatever. Let's see. Okay, so the nominees for locale of these NHL playoff nominees. First, I'd like to nominate Jim Hiller for being an absolute moron and challenging that goal in Game 3, which single-handedly shifted the momentum squarely in Edmonton's favor, and then being a stubborn ass when asked by the media what the team could do to better play in the third periods in games after his team had blown 3 out of those 4 third period leads. Second nominee, Maple Leafs, for making it past the first round for just the second time in about 20 plus years, taking a commanding 2-0 series lead and having a 3-1 lead in Game 3, blowing said lead, losing in overtime to Brad Marchand, getting smoked in Game 5, in particular at home against the Panthers, winning Game 6 only to lose in Game 7. And congrats, Maple Leafs, you still can't make it past the second round. Okay, so I got Jim Hiller, Maple Leafs. I'm thinking about, I want at least 2 more options, and then I'll add other as an option. Okay, Jim Hiller, Maple Leafs. I'll make the first option LA Kings / Jim Hiller, because the team also choked. Let's see. And if you think other, say why and mention in the comments. I meant to add the other option to the poll. Jamal Curry says, "Go Cats, go." Yeah, the last time a Canadian team had home ice in the finals, they faced a team with Brad Marchand. And the Marchand won the series for the Bruins. Yeah, Amanda says basically Paul's reasoning was let the players who went to battle on the ice shake hands. Coaches and staff shouldn't be involved. Are we going to see a Benny Chucky Marshy line in the series? Probably not. Johnny says, "Lol, the Canes admin embarrassed the shit out of themselves twice. Did you know what they posted to the Timberwolves and Stars after they lost? I don't know. Enlighten me." Okay, I did not include Capitals because to be honest, the whole lull they didn't make it past the second round is stale. The Capitals impressed me this year because they successfully retooled the team from barely making it into the playoffs and getting swept last year to best team in the Eastern Conference and won the first round against the Canadiens, and Ovi got the record. And the Jets, if they had lost Game 7 to the Blues, they would definitely be in locale discussion, but because they actually won that series against the Blues, and I am willing to give them a little bit of leniency. Mikey says if Florida wins, that seals the deal on truly working towards a real dynasty, and they really want that. Jack the Leafs kid says Capitals and Jets were the most obvious regular season pretenders ever, though. But they made it past the first round, and especially in the Jets' case, I say that calls for leniency. No one ever really expects the top team in either conference to actually do anything anymore. So I do not believe the Capitals and Jets are anywhere near as big of a locale as any of the options I put up there in the video, in the poll. So right now, it's the Stars and DeBoer have the lead for localdom with there's 17 votes on the poll. Stars and DeBoer right now leading the discussion. Second place is Maple Leafs. The Kings and Jim Hiller are at 18%, and the Hurricanes are like at 12%. Yeah, 3 finals and 2 cups in a row would definitely be a dynasty. How much are the Oilers going to miss Zach Hyman? Probably a lot. Probably quite a lot. Jack the Leafs kid says, "You're right, Kyle. I think it's DeBoer and Ben." Well, right now the voting is pretty back and forth. Maple Leafs and Dallas Stars / Peter DeBoer seem to be the heavy favorites so far. It's basically back and forth on who's the locale. Thomas says, "Are you scared playing the Oilers in the Stanley Cup final rematch?" Not really. the most absurd scenario already happens. We already have seen a team come back from a 3-0 deficit in the series to force Game 7, which means this has got to be the most unpredictable Stanley Cup Finals we've had in a long time. So yeah, there's not much to say other than the Panthers and the Oilers are headed back to a rematch in the finals, and basically if you wanted me to give a preview of this series, Oilers are without Zach Hyman, but they got Matthias Ekholm back. The Oilers are getting, at least on paper, they're getting the godlike version of Stuart Skinner right now. It could just be because the Stars are completely useless in the conference finals. I do know that Stuart Skinner also put on clinics against Vegas, and I still have no explanation for how Vegas could not even win 2 games or a game at home against the Oilers. Definitely after last year, it is impossible. It should be impossible to underestimate our opponents in these playoffs, in this finals. The Panthers had a 3-0 lead in the finals last year and came dangerously close to being the first team to make the finals and get reverse swept since World War II. So can't take anything for granted. The Panthers have to rest up and get healthy as fast as possible. Luosterainen, Mikkola, Greer, Reinhart, and I'm sure there are other players dealing with minor injuries. Panthers got 1 day's head start as far as rest goes, but yeah, I think we all look forward to this series. So without Hyman, I am very curious to find out what Edmonton plans to have as their lines in Game 1. Mikey says it's going to be hard for the Oilers to beat us. Bex thinks it's going to be even harder than last year, and we all know how that went. Bex also says our depth is better this year, though. It's funny, the Oilers fans think the same thing. You know, the Oilers got Jake Wallman. The Panthers got Brad Marchand. Beck says it's the revenge arc that Miss McBiscuit and the Oilers have that's going to fuel them. Hey, Leah. Leah found me in here. Who's a good girl? Huh? Yes, I know. Mommy and Daddy left again. Huh? How could they do this to you? Oh, had you been in here before? Olechka thinks McBiscuit's about to have another meltdown in the locker room. So with about 27 votes in the poll, not a very large sample size, the Stars and Peter DeBoer have the lead in the poll at like 43%, Maple Leafs at 36%, and then both the Hurricanes and the Kings and Hiller are tied for last with just 11% of the vote each. Real Cinema says Marchand is better than Tarasenko, and Greer and Gadjo are tougher and scoring more than Lorenz and Okposo. I agree with Okposo not scoring as much. Okposo, obviously, he never actually scored for the Panthers, but Lorenz was really good for us. Greer and Gadjo, they didn't really get going. If memory serves me correct, those four flying guys didn't really start scoring until the second round. The Leafs were very successful at shutting down the Panthers' scores in Game 6 specifically. So, look, the game plan for both the Panthers and Oilers is got to be pretty simple. If you're the Panthers, you want to use the aggressive forecheck to counter McDavid and Draisaitl's speed. You want to lay the hits. You want to frustrate the Oilers and make them take penalties. You want to smother them whenever they try and get the puck in the offensive zone. And if Officer Bob remains on the case and the Panthers have the scoring touch that they did in, for example, games 5 and 7 against the Leafs, ends all but one game against the Canes, the Panthers could make quick work of the Oilers if things go right. And if you can make Skinner regress back to can't stop a beach ball. That would help too. For the Oilers, all they have to do is look at how the Leafs completely made the Panthers defense look like chumps in games 1 and 2 and the start of game 3, and also how the Canes were able to win game 4 and the Leafs were able to win game 6. If the Oilers correctly take the low-risk plays, like flipping the puck out of the zone. I watched the hockey psychology video where he explains just how similar the Panthers and Canes are and the tricks that the Canes were using to get them the win in game 4 and the early lead in game 5. The Oilers will essentially be doing everything in their power to get the puck away from the Panthers' forecheck and to spring McDavid and Draisaitl loose should the Panthers even slip up the tiniest bit. The Oilers have the speed and the skill of 2 superstars in McDavid and Draisaitl, and they came alive in games 4 through 6 of last year's finals. So essentially this whole series comes down to who makes the least amount of mistakes, who gets the clutch goaltending. Yes, Bex, we have a playoff, Bob, but the Oilers right now have a what's the word I should use? They have the goods. They have the good Skinner. Okay, so my plan is probably around 1:15 is when I'll sign off, so that leaves about 10 more minutes. If we wanted to make some predictions, who do you think scores the most goals in the finals? Who scores the game-winning goal of the series? Who gets the Conn Smythe? McDavid would have to have a hell of a performance in order to justify. Correct me if I'm wrong, though. The Conn Smythe is supposed to only take in the performance, to take into consideration the performance from the first 3 rounds, right? The Conn Smythe is meant to be for playoffs MVP, not Stanley Cup Finals MVP. In which case, it'd be so hilarious if they decided to give it to Sam Bennett because he was the leading goal scorer through the first 3 rounds. And I obviously care more about winning the Stanley Cup. I care way more about winning the cup. At the same time, it would be hilarious if Bennett won Conn Smythe. just to see how the Leafs fan would react. Although, what are the Mikko Rantanen would have been a real good candidate for Conn Smythe, but then, no goals in the last 7 games of the playoffs. So yeah, as the stream comes to an end, what are your thoughts? What do we have? What do the Panthers need to do in order to repeat as Cup champions? Simon, I'm not sure what me and Jaws and Donna will do this weekend, but we're gonna enjoy ourselves. It's as much as I enjoy watching the hockey games, it is really nice to get the extended break where I don't have to cover the hockey game every single night. Wednesday, June 4th is when it starts. So it'll be nice to relax in the meantime and have some fun doing non-hockey things. There is so much more left to go to get that cup. Panthers need to win 4 games. It proved to be surprisingly difficult after such an easy start in last year's finals. Hopefully the Panthers have learned their lesson by now and will know how to finish off an opponent when they're on the ropes without causing unnecessary amounts of stress. There are 6 players who have won the Conn Smythe Trophy as playoff MVP while playing on a non-Stanley Cup winning squad. Roger Crozier, Glenn Hall, Reggie Leach, Ron Hextall, Jean-Sebastien Giguère, and Connor McDavid. Leading winners Patrick Waugh, Sidney Crosby, Wayne Gretzky, Mario Lemieux, Bobby Orr, and Bernie Parent. Well, there is a trophy more important than Conn Smythe, and it's called the Stanley Cup. If the Panthers repeat as Cup champions and enter the dynasty talks, McDavid can win all the consolation Conn Smythes he wants. He didn't look happy last year after winning the Conn Smythe, but losing the Cup Finals. That's for sure. what the interesting wrinkle in this year's playoffs is the Oilers having home ice advantage since it's been well over a decade, in fact, closing in on 15 years since the last time a Canadian team has had home ice advantage in the finals. The last time a Canadian team had home ice advantage in the finals, it was the Vancouver Canucks, who fell to their demise in 7 games at the hands of Brad Marchand. So, yeah, there's still a lot of hockey left to play. The Panthers, I am so incredibly happy to say the Panthers have a chance of winning the Stanley Cup again and repeating as champions. So, anyways, I think I'm going to go ahead and sign off for the afternoon. Thank you, everyone, for joining the stream. Let me see what the final results of that poll was. Let me see. I'll with 40 votes. I'll call it right now. With 40 votes, the locale has been decreed. The Dallas Stars and Peter DeBoer. Yeah. Well, I think they definitely get the edge in locale talks just because Peter DeBoer threw Ottinger so thoroughly under the bus. That is pretty inexcusable. All right. I will see you guys next time, and thank you for joining both Jaws and I this afternoon. And yeah, Panthers on Wednesday. The battle begins to win the Stanley Cup again. Okay, folks, enjoy the rest of your afternoon.